Hi Facebook. We're going to give this a minute to build, and then we're going to start with our little program. So we're just going to give it a minute or two to build. I'm without help today, so I'm trying to do both things myself. So just give me 1 second. And as the questions come up, tell them. Okay, so we have our help. You guys are good to go. Great. Thanks for the help, guys. And the way that I'd like to do this today is for me to get through the presentation about money, and then if you have questions at the end, I'd like to answer everybody's questions and make sure that I answer them properly. So we're going to be looking at feedback from people. So today again, this conversation is a conversation about money. And I'm not going to make an opinion on whether I believe that money is good or bad or where the making of money fits into your spiritual life. That's not like the point of the conversation today. The point of the conversation today is to let people know that there actually is a way of doing this. There's a way of making money that I understood before I even understood how I understood it. It was just something that was in the air, that was embedded in me, that I had an understanding of. And before I get into how this works, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. That my name is Gerry, and I work at Rythmia, which is a life advancement center in Costa Rica, and we specialize here in plant medicine combined with metaphysical teachings, and how this place came to be is its own very interesting story. But I won't bore you with that. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my financial life. What happened to me during my financial life is what caused Rythmia to be here. I had a wonderful financial life, but I had a very, very bad personal life. So let me just stick to the great parts about my financial life. So I quit school in the last grade that I completed was the 11th grade. I got kicked out of a couple schools before that. I wound up in jail a couple years later. I got out of jail, and in my 20s, I managed to amass $1 million, and that's so I became a real millionaire in my 20s. And by a real millionaire, I meant that I had $1 million to spend. And I bought my first airplane in my 20s, and in my 30s, I took a company public as chairman, founder, and CEO. And I had about $140 million net worth in my 20s. My 30s. And also in my 30s, the company that I founded went broke in the dot-com crisis and cratered, and I went completely broke. And more than completely broke, I actually was in a position where I owed $6 million. I had no assets, and I owed $6 million in taxes and all kinds of things from owning a public company. And at 38, so this happened at 37, and at 37 I went broke. At 38 I started my next company, and I sold that company when I was 41 for $89 million plus a $5 million work contract, so $94 million. And then I quit working. And what I want to reflect today, and the short story on this is that my life had become a terrible life. I was a terrible guy, and I ended up trying to commit suicide a couple times, and did plant medicine, found my way out of it. I found my way out of it through a real miracle, what I call, and it's a replicable miracle. It's a miracle that happens here all the time, every single week, to about 93% of the people who walk through the door. But that miracle is based in truth. And my financial course is labeled Truthenomics. And in it, what ended up happening is plant medicine showed me how I was able to do what I was able to do when I was young, and how I was able to manifest this money. And it also showed me that's what everybody else is doing who knows how to make money, who knows how to manifest money. What's interesting is the way of manifesting money is the same way that you manifest anything else: love, health, whatever it is that you're looking for. It's the same exact system. To get you to understand the system, I first have to get you to agree with me that this system for making money is an energetic law. It's not a system, it's an energetic law, very similar to gravity. And it's as consistent and deliberate as gravity. And once you understand this, it opens up a whole new way of looking at things. That it's a law or a series of laws that work together, and they work just like gravity. So if I were to take this pen and I were to drop it, right? I'm going to drop it. It's probably going to do one thing, right? That's what it's going to do. That's how consistent the laws for making money are. That's how consistent the manifestation laws are. A lot of us, because of our upbringing and some religious beliefs, a lot of us are very, very confused over making money. We believe that we believe two different things. We believe that nice guys finish last, right? And that God may favor nice people financially. So both of those things are not true. They just are what they are. So I explain it to you. You can open the paper any day, and you can see somebody who you don't think is a nice guy who's making a fortune. And you can also open that paper, and if you read long enough, you'll see somebody who you do believe is a nice guy who's making a fortune. So you have, let's say, Bill Gates on one side, who's giving all of his money away, right? And apparently a pretty decent human to give everything that he's ever made away to charity. And on the other side, you may have Donald Trump, and you may have your own opinions about Donald Trump. But they both use the same system for success. You see, in the gravity does not favor the blue pen or the red pen. When you drop them, they hit the ground at the exact same time. The gravity does not favor anything. The energy does not favor the good person or the bad person, because the laws are the laws. Being a good person is its own virtue. It's its own gift. That's the gift of being a great person, is you get to be a great person. If you take a look through history, I mean, there were so many great leaders who were not good people. They were successful at conquering countries. They were successful at war. They were successful, but they wouldn't be considered good people. A lot of communistic dictators were great at running a country. Little tiny Cuba was well run and almost was a success for communism. But you can't say that Fidel Castro was a bad leader. He was a very successful leader. He was the list goes on and on, from Pol Pot to everything. There were a ton of people who were a success, and a lot of us who are Catholic believe that mixed beliefs of Christians, that nice guys finish last, but you have to be a nice guy to get God's favor, and neither are true. Another thing is this too. A lot of us have a belief about money that we think money is bad. And a lot of that goes back to the teachings of Jesus Christ. And if you really follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, you can twist it any way you want. But Jesus Christ was not a fan of money, because he believed that money got in the way of this spiritual path, got in the way of the truth. That doesn't mean that that's the truth of your life. And that just means that the original teachings of Jesus, if you go into the scrolls, and you can see where it was written, that it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of the needle than it is for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. Now you've got to take that in context. The eye of the needle was a gate in Jerusalem. It was one of, I think, 7 gates. And in that gate, if you wanted to go through with your camel, you'd have to dismount the camel and then take all the packings off the camel and walk the camel through the thing, because it couldn't fit both. A lot of people think it means that a camel fits through the eye of a sewing needle, and it's not. It just means that it's harder, and it is harder. If you've never had money, then you might look at it and not understand this. But if you've had money, enough money, you can see that the challenges of life are magnified with the advent of an excess of money. So it's its own responsibility making money. So I just want to get to the meat of the thing. So again, I was extremely lucky at making money. I was an extremely lucky manifester. As a matter of fact, when Google had their research department, they did a little thing on me, and I was about 260 million to 1. The chance of somebody with my background and my upbringing being able to continually have these capital events in life. But I'm going to show you something, that each of us is a master manifester far beyond that. And I'm going to tell you why. That anybody who's watching this is more than a 260 million to 1 shot. That there's a good chance that you're about 1,600 times more of a statistical rarity than that. And I mean it by this. It's about 400 quadrillion to 1, the chance of that sperm meeting that egg and creating you. So at one time, as the energy you were before, you were a master manifester. That's that you got to get that. That's 1,600 times more rare than a 250 million to 1 shot was you. And just knowing that, it makes you wonder what happened. I have people. I had a guy here about 8 months ago, and he was 38-ish years old, and he told me that he went to apply for a job twice that nobody else applied for, and he didn't get the job. And I tried to be cool with that and say, oh, well, hey, it wasn't for you. But I was thinking in my head at the time, how could you go from sinking a 400 quadrillion to 1 shot and 30-some short years later not be able to get a job that nobody else applied for and you applied for twice? It goes to show you that along the way of life, we've unlearned how to manifest. We've unlearned how to manifest. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do before I get into the how is to clear your mind of anything you think you've known about manifesting. Just clear your mind, because we're going to take a super, super fresh look at it. And I'm going to start by telling you about the energy you were. Let me see if I can read. I have to read something like that. I'm going to take my mind and tell you about the energy that you were. That's better. And look at what that energy knew to manifest life. So one time you were this little bit of energy. This little bit of energy. And you had already been alive, let's assume, and you knew something. You knew 2 of the primary and the only things that are important in this thing is you know who you were in that moment, you knew who you were in that moment, and you knew exactly what you wanted. You wanted a body, and you wanted another shot at Earth School. So you knew crystal clear, because you've been here before, you knew what it was, you knew what you had, you knew who you were, and you knew exactly what you wanted, and boom, you did it. Not only did you do it, that 400 quadrillion to 1 shot, that doesn't include everything else that you manifested with it. Your mother, your father, your life situations, your challenges, your growth, all that you put into one thing, and you did it. You did it. And I'm going to tell you that if you use these little principles I'm going to give you today, and you start using them now, and anybody who tells you that it's easy is lying. If it were easy, would everybody not be rich? Everybody who's chasing money? Of course it would be. It was so simple. By virtue of the statistics behind it, 0.2% of the people in this country are wealthy. 0.2%. When I say wealthy, I mean a net worth in addition of above $15 million. So two out of 1,000. So why would it only be 2 out of 1,000 if it's easy? The reason is because there's actually a system, and the system isn't easy, but it's very much worth it if that's what you're looking to do. And by the way, Christ was a huge manifester. He manifested, well, it's still around today. He wanted a following, and he did a pretty good job. So I mean, don't think that he wasn't a manifester. He was. Most people that understand spiritual law and spiritual concepts are pretty good at manifesting things. And I'm going to get into why, because when I took this on and I said I want to do a class for the spiritual community, and the spiritual community is this wonderful community, and there is something in the spiritual community that keeps a lot of people on the bottom financially, and I'm going to get into why that is. But first, let's get into the first thing that you need. In order for you to manifest something, you have to know exactly where you're at in the moment, where you are in the moment. So that means you have to know you. By knowing you, I mean this: knowing your strengths, your weaknesses, everything about you, the truth of you, all right? The truth of you, and there's a big reason why most people don't know this. The reason most people don't know this is because sometime between when you were conceived and 5 years of age, something happened in your life that scared you. And as a result of that, you split and you made a run from safety and you left your soul. And this is an absolute truth. And in this, when you became someone else, this person out here became all of the things in your life. The butcher, the banker, the candlestick maker, all of these things was done by a person other than yourself. That's why the second biggest component of this is not only do you have to know who you are in this moment, but you have to know exactly what you want. Now, it can be super, 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 super hard to know what you want if you don't know who you are. It becomes really, really hard. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find a system or a friend or a group of friends who can tell us who we are in the moment. Who can tell us, you know what, Mary, you're not the best baker at the moment. And that only means at the moment. You know, at the moment, in 11th grade, Michael Jordan wasn't good enough to make the varsity basketball team. So at that moment, he wasn't a superstar. But he was a superstar. He just wasn't there yet. So you need somebody that can give you an honest appraisal of you at this moment. Not who you are in your wholeness. And once you know who you are in the moment, then what you want becomes super, super, super clear. Now, the clearer what you want becomes, the easier this gets, because you're going to have to learn to do something with the clarity of this. So here's my story. Now, when I got out of jail, I decided that I wanted $1 million. $1 million. It was, and by the way, back then that was a whole lot of money. So I knew so much about money, not how to make it or anything. I knew so much about money. I knew what it smelled like. I even would taste money. I would taste what $1 tastes like, or I knew how much of it, $1 million of it, fit into a briefcase. I knew what it looked like, what it smelled like, how heavy it was, the feel of it, the touch of it. I intimately knew that money, because at some point you're going to have to vibrate like what you want. You're going to have to vibrate like what you want. And this is what I mean by this. Once you know who you are, you're going to know, you have to know what you want, and you have to know it so well that you convince you that you already have it. And that's really, really hard to do. I'm going to tell you a story about me. When I was a kid, there was a Chevy dealer in Pittston, Pennsylvania called Lispy Chevrolet. And I was one of the only customers to get kicked out of a car dealership. And the reason why is because I wanted a white Camaro with the red interior. And this car was in the showroom, and I was in there every day, sitting in that car, smelling that car, touching. I still know what the steering wheel of that car feels like. This is 37 years ago. I still know what that steering wheel felt like. I knew everything about it, and I was in it so much that the salesman kicked me out. They kicked me out of the showroom. That's how well I knew what I wanted. That's how well I knew what I wanted. I wanted that car. And so I wanted the money. I wanted that car. So you know what I started doing? This was still in my 20s. I started acting like I had the money. Even in the bathroom, I would look in the mirror and think, you're a rich man. You have $1 million. And I would look at me. That's what a millionaire looks like. And I would look at me and I would know it and I would know it. And most people didn't get it. Most people would say, what is wrong with him? Because I was a bellman at the time. I was unloading people's luggage. And I would look and I'd say, I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. And the people who work with me thought, this guy's an idiot. And he's not too bright because he's lugging luggage and he thinks he's a millionaire. But I kept thinking it and thinking it and thinking it and thinking it and thinking it. And because of that bellman job, because of being a bellman and me thinking that way, somebody came through the doors and noticed me and gave me a job that allowed me to make my first $1 million. But it's because I acted like I already had it. So what's interesting is when you act like the thing that you had is yours, you vibrate to it. And that's part of the law. It just happens. And if you could see it, it's a vibration just like a music wave. It's just like a note of music. It's a vibration. And when you're vibrating like it, the funniest thing is if you really believe you're it, you are. It's that simple. There's nothing more complicated or more easy to get than this part of it. Because this is it. There's a universal taxi. And this is where the universal assist comes. So I want to explain to you about how important these two pieces are. The first piece is I call the taxi company, and I don't know if anybody's even watching this. I don't know where you're at if you're watching this, but let's say most people know New York fairly well. So let's say that I was in Brooklyn, right? Now, forgive me, I'm in Brooklyn, and I call up a yellow cab and I say, hey, look, I want to take a taxi from the Bronx to Manhattan. And I'm on Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, and I want to go to Lex in Manhattan. And they say, okay, how many times do I have to make that phone call to get to Manhattan? Right? It's unlimited. I could make that phone call 10,000 times because I'm not even telling them where I'm at. I'm telling them someplace other than where I'm at. So when you say to the universe, hey, I'm here, and you're really accurate about where you are, and I want to get there, and there looks like this, and explain exactly what it looks like, and you already think that you're there. That's when the universe comes in to assist. That's how it works, because it's a universal taxi. So if you call up and you say, if you're in Bed-Stuy and you want to go to Manhattan and you say exactly where you're at in Bed-Stuy and you want to go exactly where you're at, that taxi comes. It might be a little bit late, but it comes and it gets you and it takes you to exactly where you want to go. But you can call it 1,000,000 times. And if you're not telling it where you're at, it's never going to get there. So most of us, by the time we're 20 years old, we've tried this 4 or 5 times. We've tried to manifest something and it hasn't worked because we haven't been honest about where we're at. So then what we start doing is we start buying programs to help us make the phone call. And so now we try it and we call, and this time we smile and we believe and we cheer and we say some things and da-da-da-da, but we're still not telling the taxi really where we are. And you can do that 1,000 times to the point that when you're 30 years old, you believe that none of this shit works, that none of it works. And the whole problem was at the very beginning. At the very beginning. So that's why I want you to wipe your slate clean to go back into this. So the first thing is to say where you are in the moment and tell them. The second thing is to be super, super, super descriptive about what you want. And I mean what you want. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of us, what do we like to do when we get money? Most of us, first thing we want to buy is a car. Second thing we want to buy is a house. So I'm going to tell you about me and houses. At one point, I had 6 houses, right? And they're from, let's say, each house costs from the bigger ones from $7 to, $9 million houses, right? So what I would do, before I ever had like all that big chunk of money, before I had the big chunk of money, I would go look at houses. And I would walk into those houses. When I found the house that I wanted, I would go and visit it 4 or 5 times, and I would get to know what it would feel like to sit in that kitchen, what it would feel like to use the bathroom, what it would feel like to sit on the deck or to to walk around the pool, I would fantasize and get to know the feeling of that, the feeling tone of it, because if I act like the feeling tone of it, I get it. And on my favorite house, the house that I have given to, I lost in a divorce, that house was owned by a friend of mine. And when the house was gorgeous, right? And when my friend owned the house, I went over there for dinner one night, and I thought, and this guy was much more senior than I, and I was a kid when I was there, and I thought, you know, one day I'm going to own this house. And I spent that whole night with him, sitting in that house and thinking, one day I'm going to own it. And I was right. One day I owned it. And this is the kind of thinking, though, because we're not dealing with how. If you notice, right now I'm not dealing with anything about how. I'm going to get to how in a minute. Because how is so unimportant in this. It's not what this is about. This is about the feeling of it. Because the feeling of it is what transmutes. Okay, so I want to get you into the feeling of it. So have a real honest appraisal. The reason this thing is called Truthenomics is because it's all based in truth. It's all based in truth. Now, here's something that happened to me. When I was a kid, first I wanted 1 million, then I wanted 2 million, then I wanted 3 million, and this goes all the way to 100 million a couple of times because I wasn't smart. I just thought that money would do it for me, and money wouldn't do it for me. But I was missing a big component of this. And I'm going to tell you the component is, and you're lucky because you're not missing this. Once you know who you are, then the things that you pick and the what you want are going to change based on something else, based on knowing who you are in your wholeness. So this tempers the things that we pick in the what, if you know who you are in your wholeness. And anybody who's in the conscious community knows, because of the first book that they read, it told them who they are in their wholeness. See, I was from a Catholic, Irish, Italian, tough family. We didn't hear this shit, this thing. But who are you in your wholeness? Anybody know? Is anybody saying who they're in their wholeness? Your love, your connectivity, you're connected to everything, your beauty, your happiness, your all of these things in your wholeness, right? So knowing this, knowing who you are in your wholeness, helps you love, beauty, happiness, truth. These are all beautiful attributes of who you are in your wholeness, right? So had I known who I was in my wholeness, I wouldn't have kept picking a bigger dollar amount for me to fill this hole up, because all I was trying to do was fill this hole up of separation. That's what I was trying to do with all of these things, with the money, with everything else I was doing in my life. But I'm going to get back to this. So now, in the beginning, I started talking about the conscious community and how I love this community and why I was always so confused about this community as a subgroup having a harder time at manifesting wealth than the populace. And it's really true. I'm going to tell you something. If you take a look at the conscious community, they have a harder time of manifesting wealth than other groups. And I'm going to tell you why, or at least my opinion of why that is. Keep in mind that this is the same community that knows who they are in their wholeness. And here's the thing. What people want to do, and it's human nature, is they want to go from who they are in their wholeness to what they want. That's called a spiritual bypass. So this community says to the taxi, I'm light, I'm love, I'm perfectness, I'm beauty, I'm vitality, I'm all these things. But in this moment, it's not true. It's not who they are in this moment. It's who they are in their wholeness. And they want to skip the step of doing the hard work of looking at themselves and telling them who they really are. And I want to give you an idea of this. When I started to make my first $1 million, I could have sat there and I could have said, you know what? I'm too good for this job that I'm going to do. And I could have convinced myself that I was above it. But I wasn't. I wasn't that guy. I was honest with myself. I said, you know what, I had the first part of this down. And I'll tell you why I had it down. Because I didn't have a lot of stimuli coming from many different places. A lot of the kids today, they've been raised and they've been told that they get a trophy for everything, and that they're wonderful no matter what they're doing, and that how well they do at a particular thing doesn't count. It just counts if they participate, and all of that's a lie. See, I was lucky, and I'll tell you why I was lucky. I was kicked out of schools. I couldn't get A's. I was in jail with a bunch of other people that were in the same position. So when I got out of jail, I didn't think maybe I'm a movie star, maybe I'm Albert Einstein. I thought, you know what? I'm a guy who's got nothing and who has nothing, and da-da-da. And I was very, very crystal clear about who I was, and nothing was too good for me. Right? Nothing was too good for me, and I got the job as a bellman, and then because of my attitude, because of who I knew who I was, and that I was humble but yet motivated and believed in myself. That's the kind of thing you got to get to. So this is a hard thing, but that's how you got to get to. The spiritual community tries to go from here to here. I'm light, I'm beauty, and I'm love, and I want the perfect wife or husband. I'm life, I'm beauty, and I'm love, and I want the perfect job. I'm life, I'm beauty, and I'm love, and I want my book to be a bestseller. I'm life, I'm beauty, and I'm love, and I want $100 million. And they're trying to do this, and that's not how it works. It is not how it works. It is not how it works. You want to use this column only to temper the... You know who you are, you'll know what you want, but you want to temper those things with who you are in your wholeness. And this is where this gets tricky. So let's say we've done this work, and we've done step one, which is really step two, and figured out who we are in the moment. We figured out exactly what we want, and then we've tempered it with who we are and our beauty and our love and the real truth about ourselves. Then I'm going to tell you, this is the crazy thing. Once you do this and this, tempered by that, then the vehicle shows up. The vehicle shows up. So listen to this. I had zero chance of becoming a millionaire at Mount Airy Lodge as a bellman. I had zero chance. But I already believed I had the money. And I was really honest about where I was in the moment. And so out of nowhere, I got the job to get me the $1 million. And I mean out of nowhere. But I want to tell you what, that's where preparation and like confidence and preparation meets with that opportunity right here. It vibrates with it right here. So I'm going to tell you that once you know these things, the vehicle shows up. The vehicle shows up. It shows up. So I tell you, I had a friend here who was an actor, and he went through this whole thing, and he was a TV actor, but he wanted to be on Broadway. And he would tell me for 10 years that this wouldn't happen, and he couldn't understand. He was a mediocre TV actor, and couldn't get on Broadway. He bought this program that I have, and I heard from him, and the craziest thing was he lived in a rent control apartment, a big rent control apartment, and he was on an elevator in that apartment. He'd been in the apartment for 7 or 8 years. And he started talking on the elevator, and the guy that he was talking to was a producer of a Broadway show. Next thing you know, he's on Broadway. And I said, well, wouldn't the guy just move in? He said, no, he'd been in the building longer than me, but I never knew he lived there. So like immediately, the thing that he was after showed up. The vehicle showed up. And the craziest thing about this is it doesn't show up because the universe doesn't give you anything new. It's always been there, but you haven't been able to see it. It's always been there, but you haven't been able to see it. So the thing is, very rarely does somebody come up with a new product. What they are is they're a combination of products that already existed that make a new product, right? It's a combination of water and something is the new cleaning thing, and the something existed before, and if it didn't, it's the combination of two things that already existed, because there is nothing new, right? Everything that you ever wanted is there because it's in here. but it's in there. So in your sphere, it's in your sphere. So just follow me. So the thing is, when you know who you are, you'll know what you want. You temper that by knowing who you are in your wholeness, and then the thing shows up. The thing shows up. And that is the truth of the truth of the truth. And the universe will test you. And I want to tell you what I mean by the universe will test you. The universe will test you. So, like all taxis, there's a fare. You know, when I was a kid, you used to be able to steal taxis. You used to be able to hop in the back seat. Two of you would hop in the back seat, and when the car would stop, two doors would open, and one guy would go one way, one guy would go the other way, and you could steal taxis. Now you can't. Uber, it's all paid up front. You can't steal taxi. Not that I would, but I'm just saying. So every taxi has a fare. And the fare for this is that the universe will test your business. I wanted to build a place that the medicine told me to build, and the medicine told me to buy. So I went and I built the place, and I bought the place, and then I spoke to an attorney, and the attorney said, "Don't worry, you don't need a license for any of this. This is a foreign country," and da 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 da. And I said, "Okay, I won't get a license. I'll just open up." And then he said, "If you get fined, then you just pay the fine." And I thought, "Oh, it's like New Jersey. You do what you want to do, and then you pay the fine when you get in trouble." So anyway, we opened up, and immediately got shut down by the government, and not only shut down, but shut down in a way that where the government didn't want us to operate here. So now I have this complex that I bought. I have 70 people who are employed at the place, and I'm not allowed to do business. And so I said, then the medicine must have lied to me, because this doesn't look like this is going to happen. And I said to my attorney, I said, "What should I do?" My attorney from the United States said, "Gerry, walk away. Just walk away. If you sell the place, you sell the place. If not, don't spend another dime, just walk away." And I thought to myself, and I thought, you know what? No, I really want to do this. I want to do it from my heart. I want to do it. And I said, the hell with it. I'm going to go ahead. And I said, I'm going to get a license to do plant medicine. And they laughed at me. They said, nobody's ever been issued a license in the world to do plant medicine, especially by a government that doesn't like you. And I said, okay. I listened to them. And what I did is I went through the paces. I reestablished my relationship with the country, and I went through the licensing process, and I spent the money, and I did. And a year and a half later, guess what? I got the license. So the universe will test you, and the universe will test you, and it'll test you out of the gate, and it'll test how badly you want it. Now, a lot of people say, well, what about flow? Well, it's supposed to be easy. You're just supposed to be this, and I'm going to tell you about flow. So when you look at Michael Jordan playing basketball, what do most people say? Holy shit, he makes it look so easy. But you don't look at the 17 years of playing and practicing 8 hours a day it took him to get to that place where he was beyond. It was poetry in motion. It was the kind of thing that you could watch and cry. When Tiger Woods was at the top of his game, when you would watch it, you would know that something really unique is going on here. And the thing was, he's been hitting golf balls since he was 5 years old and practicing every day and every day and every day. It's like skiing. Anybody ever ski or snowboard where you hop on a set of skis, and the first day it's super awkward. But 15 or 20 days later of lessons, all of a sudden you're in flow. You're in flow after you do the work. After you do the work, you're in flow. So this is the thing. This is the price of things. So now, this is the model. This is actually the model that you use for making money. And I tell you what, everybody who makes money uses the same model. Everybody who manifests uses the same model. It's just the nature of it, the laws of it, the energetic laws. Now, there are accelerants and deterrents to this. And I want to tell you about the accelerants and deterrents. And the first one is hard work. That hard work is always a piece of this. Now, hard work is a perception. I want to tell you something. If I'm doing what I love, then is it hard work? No. Michael Jordan loved it. It feels like no work. For you looking at it, it looked like hard work. But for the person who's doing it, it's like no work. So hard work is a part of it. Hard work is an absolute part of it. That's the thing. The next thing is showing up. I gotta tell you something about showing up. That and it's an old-fashioned thing, showing up. And whenever anybody comes to me and they tell me they're in a rut, whether it's my kids or anybody, I ask them, how are you showing up? Are you showing up? When I got out of rehab, I lived in a house where there were a lot of actors who were constantly in and out, and a lot of them were A-list and a lot of them were Z-list. And the craziest thing was these guys would stay over, these people would stay over, and they'd say they have an audition the next day. And sometimes I'd be talking to him and I'd say, dude, didn't you have an audition today? And he'd say, well, you know what, I was thinking about it and I'm probably not right for the role. And I think the role's for a younger person or a better looking person or da-da. There's probably going to be 800 people there at the casting and da-da-da-da-da. When in fact, nobody showed because everybody thought that way. So all someone has to do half the time is show up. Just show up. The other part of it is being on time. And these are all things that are old-fashioned and they work. And I'll tell you what being on time. We're trying to act like the energy. So just think about the Earth. So the Earth is spinning at about 1,000 miles an hour. It's traveling at 67,000 miles an hour, right? And it's never late. It's never, ever, 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 ever late. And it has a lot of excuses. How about the day it got hit by a meteor? There's a million excuses for the Earth to not be on time. So with all those excuses for you not to be on time, be on time. So I'm going to ask you, no matter what you're doing, and I'll tell you the craziest thing. I have a guy here, Wayne, who was Biggie Smalls' manager, and he manages a lot of the artists in the rap business. And I said to him, because my kids were in the music business, I said, Wayne, what makes you get behind an artist? What makes someone like you get behind an artist? He goes, well, I make a list of like the 5 best ones that I know out of the whole mess. And then I take a look at those 5 and I look at them and I think who's going to show up. And that's who I pick. So even in something as crazy as this artistic game of music, that the guy that's the one that makes the king maker is picking and making kings that show up. So I'm going to ask you, whether it's your doctor or your CEO or the guy who's painting your house, what do you want him to do? You want him to show up and to be on time. And that's what the universe is asking you to do. So the more that you want to be like as successful as the energy, start acting like the energy. Start acting like it, and it happens. The next thing I tell you to do is to sign it with your heart. So I tell you, this is a crazy story. So a lot of people say, like I knew this lady, and she made cookies, and she was actually making cookies for a dispensary, and the cookies were phenomenal, like phenomenal. And I said to her, I said, you know what, you should cook me one of them, and I have a thing for cookies. You should cook me one of those cookies without the weed. And she made me the cookies, and I swear to you, it was like Otis Spunkmeyer, better than anything I've ever tasted in my life. And I thought, oh my God, this lady's wasting her time. She's cooking these cookies in the dispensary. And I told her, you know what, you should be in the cookie business. You should be in the cookie business. You know what she did? She went out and she got a business guy. And the business guy wrote a spreadsheet. And then she said, oh, you know what, I want to be here. I want to have a wonderful kitchen. And I want my place to be on Abbot Kinney. And she's made this list of things. And next thing you know, before she ever cooked a cookie, she needed $4 million to get into the cookie business. Because she created this elaborate scheme of this is what I'm going to do. This is how I want to enter the cookie business, right? So that was an idea that was perfect that died. It died because of how people went around it. So I'm going to tell you something. That it all begins with one thing. Whether you're a healer or in the multi-level business, or you're a doctor, or you're aspiring to be. It starts with one thing. So the first thing you know is this, is that when you're picking your thing that you want, the thing that will show up, and the thing that will show up you will love. You will love doing the thing that gets you to the thing that you want. You will love doing it. Love it in here. You'll be able to feel it in here. If you're not feeling it in here, it's not the right thing. You'll be able to feel it in here, and I'm going to give you an idea. And of the littlest things, the littlest, tiniest things, come the biggest businesses, the greatest successes. So I can tell you this. I had a friend who died a year and a half ago. He was a phenomenal, phenomenal guy. And he had a grandfather who was really famous. And his grandfather started selling peanuts. He got this recipe for cooking peanuts, right? And he had some, what could possibly is it going now?
Yeah, now it is.
Okay, sorry about that. And I said, what could possibly, is it working?
I think so.
Do you see my hand moving?
Yeah.
Okay, so what could possibly, how good could this get? So this little guy that was out there selling peanuts with his heart ended up owning a couple companies. You might know them. Lay's potato chips, Pepsi Cola, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, all of that, not the best for our community, but certainly a success out of doing this thing. So what I'm going to ask you to do is that I don't care what kind of job you have. Saying that me and starting my own business is an excuse that I can't fund it, I can't do this, I can't do that. It doesn't mean anything. If you're cooking cookies, go make a batch of cookies. I don't care what job. If you have a job that you don't have enough time to make a batch of cookies on, you're in the wrong job. So, and a lot of the people that are saying that they don't have time to do their business aren't even employed. So I can tell you that it's no excuse. So if you're going to write a book, start with one page. Write one page and sign it with your heart. And I can tell you what, if you're going to cook cookies and you don't have a customer base, give them away. I tell you what, you cook those cookies and cook them every night and give them away. And the next thing you know, and I mean the next thing you know, they'll be lined up at your door to pay for them. If you're a healer and you don't have a client base, put a little thing in your church or put a little thing in Craigslist or put that you're going to have a healing on Friday night at your house, and watch, 50 people will show up once you start doing a couple healings. And then you do that for 2 or 3 months and then charge for them. This is how it is, because the market, meaning the universe, will always pay you what you're worth. It will always pay you what you're worth. Problem is, a lot of us don't ask for what we're worth. So what you have to do is, that's where truth comes in. You have to give an honest assessment of what you're giving and what it's worth. And when you ask for it, guess what happens? People pay it. People will pay you what you're worth. Happens all the time. So that's a key thing. So of this littlest thing, I'll give you another one. There was a guy named Bill Fenwick. And anybody who's a fly fisherman knows what this guy was. And he was not a nice guy. He wasn't, you don't read books about saying Bill Fenwick was the nicest guy in the world, because he wasn't. But I'll tell you what he did. He made one hell of a fly rod. And every time he made one, he'd sign his name, Fenwick. And he became a multi-millionaire. And a very simple guy, but he signed each one. So everything that you do, I'm going to ask you to sign it. I'm going to ask you, and you might have to start out by giving those things away. So everything starts with one thing. If you're a dress designer, design one dress and sign your name to it. If you're a chef, create one meal and sign your name to it. If you're a healer, heal one person and give it your guts. I don't know if you guys know Mitra, my friend that heals here. Watch him heal people. Watch Brandy, my wife, heal people, and see what they give it, and see how that works. So whatever you're doing, do it, and do it from here. And if you're not feeling it from here, it's not right for you. Because here's what people who don't feel it from here do. They end up switching tables. They end up saying, okay, this isn't working, I'm going to try this. And this isn't working, I'm going to try this. And this isn't working, I'm going to try this. And I'm going to tell you what, if you don't feel it in here, and if you don't send the cue back to the universe that no matter what you send me, I'm going to get this, then it won't fall into place for you. So this is all part of this manifesting thing and how it works. Other things that are absolutely, absolutely, absolutely going to help you is affirmative prayer. And I'm going to tell you, this is the thing. And I did this since I was a kid. And I'm going to tell you how when I was a staunch Catholic, I used to start my day, and this is what I would do. I would take only 10 things that I want. I'd take 5 that I have and that I want, and then 5 that I don't yet have and that I want, and I'd intermingle them. So I'd say, the first thing is something that I have, second thing I want, third thing I have, fourth thing I want, fifth thing I have, sixth thing I want. And this is what my prayer used to be. Oh God, Mary, Jesus, Saint Joseph, Holy Spirit, Holy Family, and all the angels and saints, I thank you for these things you have given me in your most holy and sweet name. And they are as follows. And the first one would be a thank for something I had, for my parents. The second one would be $1 million. The third one would be my sisters. The fourth one would be a new Mercedes. The fifth one would be something I had. The sixth one would be my $1 million house. And I did it every day, and I still do it every day till today. It changes. I don't use the same words, but I use the same affirmation that what God is to me, my highest self, and then the things that I have and the things I don't have yet, and I thank them for it. Because part of convincing yourself that this is yours is you see, when you put things in that you already have, and then you put the things that you want, your mind can't switch gears that quick. So when you say them and feel thanks for being given the thing that you don't have yet, that's where that prayer, and I use that prayer every single day. And the greatest part of it is you can assist that in a trance. So I'm going to show you, when you say that prayer in a trance-like state, which is for some people, for me anyways, when I get on the treadmill and I set the treadmill at a low speed, and the low speed, not up and down, on one speed, you get into a trance. And when I read that prayer, which I read every single day, read those prayers. Every day that I work out, I read those prayers, which used to be every single day of my life. I read those prayers, and then I believe it, And so by you saying these things, by you going over and saying, thank you for my sister Mary, and then thank you for my $1 million house, and thank you for whatever, and then thank you for the new job that you're going to give me, and thank you for the book that I'm going to write, and thank you for this, and thank you for that, and then you put that with action, because here's the other accelerant. God meets you at the point of action. So you can have all of this stuff worked out, and if you sit home on your couch and you try to manifest, I look at these people that talk about manifestation, and I said something which was taken wrong by someone, but I say it in the most general ways. When I look at the people that are teaching people how to manifest things, and they say things that are just way out there, and I think, oh my God, and a lot of people are selling this because it's easy to hear. It's nice to hear these things because it's not that hard. You can hear this and it's not that hard. Well, the thing is that God meets you at the point of action. As soon as you start moving, and this is energy attracts energy. As soon as you start moving, then everybody else moves with you. So when you start going towards the thing, they're going to go with you. If you just sit on the couch, they're going to sit on the couch. Another thing that I hear the spiritual community is, oh, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone? Are you out of your mind? There's something called the observer effect, and it works for you. So this is what the observer effect is that you tell everyone. You tell everyone. And I'm going to tell you, you tell it with conviction. And then all of a sudden, and then you meet with the point of action, and you go. I'll tell you a story about this. So one of my favorite thought leader in the United States is a guy by the name of Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith. He's a big guy. He has this huge church and a huge spiritual center, and he has a book community, an online community, a presence on this, a presence on that. And the guy, is just this amazing dude. And I started this place, and I said, I'm going to get Michael Beckwith to hop on board and give me his support, become a part of this. And people laughed at me. And they said, what, some guys, this guy who's going to risk his reputation by being a part of are you with me? And are you with me? And he said, absolutely yes. So because the action was going, and because I told him with conviction that, hey, look it, we're going to start this place in Costa Rica and we're going to change the world. Boom, you're with me. So tell everybody, because this is how the observer effect works. If you know what a pachinko machine is, where all the little balls fall into the little cups below, if you get a bunch of people thinking that they're going to go to the middle cup, guess what? Statistically, the balls go to the middle cup. So the more people you get believing in you, the more people you get on your team, the more people you tell, then the idea takes on a life of its own and the balls fall into the center cup. It's just part of the way that it works. So tell everybody and get everybody excited, because excitement creates energy, the energy creates movement, which creates more energy, and everything keeps going and going and going. And that's the truth. The last thing is this. The last thing is to tithe. And I know that that's an old-fashioned word, and people get confused by it because they think it means giving the money to a church. And it doesn't. And tithing is so old. Tithing was around before there was taxation. So if you look in the Old Testament, they said taxes. They were talking about property. The money changers and the tax people were dealing with property tax, not income tax. Income tax is a recent idea as far as history goes. So when tithing came around and people were talking about 10%, that was good for them. If you take a guy now and tell him to tithe 10%, most people can't even figure out how to make rent. Tithing 10% is ridiculous. So this is the thing. The equivalent of 10%, though, of 10%, depending on your income tax bracket, is 5%. So when you say about tithing, what I mean by that is this. The universe operates in circulatory motion. So you have to give back before you get. And so this is the giving before you get. The commitment to give, not the actual gift. So what I would always do when I was a bellman, I wouldn't say, hey, look, I'm going to give you 10% of my $200 a week when I couldn't even pay rent with the $200. It would be ridiculous. What I said is, I made a deal with the universe. I made a deal with God. And I said, hey, when I'm cooking out of this new thing that I don't even know what it is yet, when I make $100,000, I'm going to give you $5,000. When I make $200,000, I'm going to give you $10,000. You know what I did? I did that my whole life. And when I say give it to the universe, what I mean is this. Find something that's true. I don't mean go to UNICEF or some organization that gives 97% of the money you give to it to marketing fees. I mean something that you vet, that you know, that you believe in. Whether that's a church, a spiritual center, a cause, a person, whatever it is, and you just keep recycling that gift. So you say to yourself, and you make your prayer to the universe, when I'm thanking for my things every day, what I thank for today is I thank you for giving me the opportunity to tithe my 5% to the things that I know are changing the world. That's my thank you in my list of thanks. So it's the combination of these things. If you can just listen to this thing and put this, a lot of you are sitting there and going, well, holy shit, this is a lot of things. And guess what? It is. Because making money or the manifesting of something is hard. It's not easy. It gets easy. It gets easy because you get inflow after you did the work, push the rock uphill. When it goes down the other side, it looks simple. Everything Gerry touches turns to gold. He's a 10-year overnight sensation. Watch. This company, Rythmia, is going to be a 5-year overnight sensation. So my last company, I built the largest plastic surgery company in the world, which was the hardest thing that I've ever done. And people say, well, look at everything he touches. It's easy. Well, it ain't easy. It's not easy. This is hard, and it takes when you take a look at your community of your group, you want to have, if you're married, you want to have a wife whose goals are directly in line with yours. If the wife is the person that's doing this, you want your husband's goals directly in line with yours. So that becomes your family's goals. So because you don't want contra energy. So all of this, if you took a look at it, if there was a way that we could just see sound, if we could see frequency. You can see it when you're on plant medicine, but if we could see it in our daily life, what we want is we want the energy to be going all in one direction. So energy going all in one direction. These are arrows. I can't think. All in one direction. When you have something like this, where the energy is going all over this, and you have one thing that's going in the opposite direction, guess what? You're dead. It's not going to work. So this thing with the energy of a group, of like Brandy and I, we're so involved in this thing, and all of our energy is going in the right direction, and so are the people that work here, and so are the people that help us, and so are our partners, and this, everything's going. That's how you want your life, because eventually that takes hold, and when it rolls, it goes and goes and goes and goes. So that's my video for today. If there's questions on there that anybody has any questions that they'd like to have answered, I'm more than willing to do it. Brady, is there anything on there?
Yeah, there was a question. She wanted to know, do you have to use the list that you're using for manifesting, and can she have that list, or does she make her own?
The list of
affirmations that you use?
No, it would be your own list. So the way that the affirmations list works is just say, if you're a Catholic, say, oh God, Mary, Jesus, Saint Joseph, Holy Spirit, Holy Family, and all the angels and saints. If you're a metaphysical person, you believe that the Great Spirit, the great power, the great energy, oh great energy, I thank you for these things you have already given me in your most holy and sweet name. And they are as follows. And then talk about something you have. If you're a woman and you're attractive, say, thank you for my great looks, number one. If you have a beautiful son or a daughter, thanks for giving me this wonderful son or daughter. And then the next thing, you slip in something you don't have yet that you're going to get, right? So thank you for my beautiful son and daughter, and thank you for that new job paying $400,000 a year. Thank you for this, and thank you for that. Oh, is there any others?
What if you have a job that you really don't like, but you need to pay the bills?
Let's talk about that. That job that you really don't like, that you need to pay your bills, is something that becomes a constant in your life. So let's say this. So the thing is this. There is no hell. There is no hell like a job that you're just in it for a paycheck for. Or there is no hell like a marriage you're staying married for kids for. There is no hell like anything that your heart's not in. So here's how to get out of it. Find the thing that you love. So if you love making baseball gloves, and you know what to do? Keep your job and make a glove, one glove, and sign your heart to it. And then give it away or sell it. And boy, that glove, if you did it the right way with your heart, next thing you know, you'll have 100 orders for 100 gloves, and you can walk away from your job. That's how to do it. That's how to get out of what you're doing.
Okay, regarding everything going in one direction, how does one retain a healthy balance in their life while honoring that principle?
So having everything going in one direction does not mean that you get you, your son, your daughter, your wife, all pushing 24 hours a day. That just means that there is no contra energy. So you can have a very balanced life. Although I don't know what a balanced life would look like myself, but you can have a very balanced life. But as long as you don't have contra energy. And by contra energy, what I mean is this. If you want a particular job and your wife doesn't want you to have that job, that's contra energy. That's going to keep coming up, especially if your wife's important to you. It's going to keep. So what you want to do is you want to talk to each other and always both be in the same thing, want it for each other. Because this, and I love the couple that talks about the slinky effect. Melinda and Adam. And they talk about this all the time, that one gets ahead of the other, and then the other gets, and the other gets ahead, and then the other gets. And it's the same thing with money. Sometimes she makes more money than me. Sometimes my wife, Brandy, does the thing that saves the company's ass, and she's ahead of me. And then some days I do it. And then some days so sometimes we're in the back seat and sometimes we're in the front seat. The thing is that we all want the same thing. Is there any others that are coming up there?
are sure what you really want to do, you just know you need more.
Okay, so let's talk about if you're not sure. If you're not sure of what you want, it's because you're not sure of who you are. It's just a fact of life. It's a fact of life. And not being sure of who you are comes from a split where you left your soul to become someone else. So you left your soul as a flight to safety. You thought you were going to be safe and you wouldn't be hurt, and you became someone else. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to remerge with our soul. And to remerge with your soul, we happen to specialize in that at Rythmia. That's our stock and trade. It's our thing, getting people to remerge with their soul. So because the thing that I can tell you is this. Here's a telltale sign of not being merged with your soul. That, number one, you don't know what you want. You don't know what makes you happy anymore. You don't know what excites you anymore. That's a sign of being disconnected. And the only way that we can do that is to reconnect. And to reconnect means to remerge. So if you're having trouble with that, please get down here and we can fix that in 7 days. In and out of here in 7 days, we can fix that. What else you got there, Brandon?
What if what's presenting was different than where you're going? Like, let's say that you want to be a speaker, but what presents is it being another chef job?
Okay, so let's talk about that. So if I want to be a speaker and I'm a chef, I'm sure that as a chef I get a night a week off. And on that night a week off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to advertise in the church bulletin, or I'm going to go to the local school or to whatever, and I'm going to post my sign that on that night off, I'm giving a talk on self-help or self-care or healing or whatever it is. And now, and this week it's free. And I invite people, as a matter of fact, this week it's free and I'm going to buy the donuts. And I'm going to set up there and I'm going to give my talk. And the first week I might not talk to one person, but the second week 2 might show up. And the third week 8 might show up. And I'm going to tell you, this is the greatest thing about the truth, is the universe is going to tell you how you're doing. So the universe is always going to tell you how you're doing. You know why it's going to tell you? People are going to show up. So if you're the greatest concert pianist in the world, but you play and nobody shows up, guess what? You may become the greatest, but at this moment you're not, and that's where the truth of Truthenomics comes in, is telling the truth about where you are in the moment. And that's the truth. Is there another one coming up there? We good?
Yep.
Okay, well, I hope that this helps in some way. I know that I had fun. It's rough because it's my first. I had my first Facebook Live a week or so ago, and it was terrible. I hope this one's a little bit better. But either way, I'm super gracious. This is what we love to do, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to chat with you. Thanks. God bless you, and have a great day.